In this video, I will use the wild slime from Dragon Quest Monsters as a Pokémon in Emerald. The wild slime, or slime fang in Japanese, is the boss of the Peace Gate in Terry's Wonderland and its 3DS remake. He has outstanding attack for a slime, and he can have a huge HP at higher levels. However, all of his other stats are well below average, with an absolutely dreadful amount of MP. As a Pokémon, he will have 125 base HP, 133 attack, 53 defense and special attack, 36 special defense, and 75 speed, for a total of 475. Since the DQM games use lookup tables instead of a formula to calculate stat growth, the rate of which can vary greatly at different levels, the conversion won't be exactly faithful. Also, bigger index numbers don't always mean higher stats. In this case, 18 is clearly better than 20. Table 25 is unusual as it only starts growing rapidly from level 42, which he can hardly reach naturally, so I nerfed his base HP. His level-up moves are based on his champion or samurai skill set in the 3DS remake, plus a few other moves to fit his traits and theme. He gets Demon Demeanor and Undead Undoer, but those can't be replicated in this gen due to the lack of freeze dry, so I just gave him Jump Kick and Night Slash instead. He also gets Meditation, which is a self-healing skill and has the same Japanese name as Calm Mind, but he's not a special attacker, so I gave him Meditate and Recover. Volt Tackle because he gets Zap Break as a trait in the remake. Moves and caps are boosted by his custom ability, more on that later. All basic solo run rules apply. I'm not using Hidden Power due to its luck-based nature in this generation, where you have no legitimate control over IVs. I will set up a wild slime with perfect IVs and pre-applied EVs. He will have a neutral nature, because I can edit the base stats directly to make adjustments if necessary. He will obviously be a fighting type, and EV-wise, he will have max attack and special defense. Base 75 speed should be enough with the 10% badge bonus. The Reckless ability is very easy to simulate using custom moves, since all it does is boost moves with self-damage by 20%. I put him in the 1.64 million experience group, same as other HP sponges like Hariyama, Whale Lord, and Driftbloom. This group requires the least amount of EXP in the early levels, but the most after level 55 or so. It may or may not be a problem for the final Steven battle, depending on how many rare candies I can pick up during the run. Takedown has 90 base power, which becomes 108 after the 20% boost from Reckless. Also, the feint here is the weaker Gen 5 version that simply ignores Protect, since the Gen 4 version is useless and impossible to replicate. I was already level 18 after beating all the trainers before Roxanne, and she was mostly trivial even though I only had normal moves. I have a huge HP pool and amazing attack, and my fighting type resists Rock Tomb. The AI treats Rock Tomb as a speed debuff, not a damaging attack, and prioritizes it as long as you are faster, but it's a terrible move in this gen with only 50 power and 80% accuracy. It got buffed to 60 and 95% in the later gens, making it much more usable. Her nose pass could survive a boosted takedown, but its attack stat is so abysmal that it couldn't do anything. Here is an additional rival battle in Emerald. It's optional, but I need all the EXP I can get, thanks to my experience group. I replaced a different starter this time, just to see if she gets a better team later on, but it wouldn't matter anyway, since she's hardly a rival to begin with, and more of a supporter character. There's nowhere to grind on the island, but luckily, this group levels up the quickest early on, so I still had a good level advantage for the fighting gym. My defenses are horrible, but I have the HP to tank hits and meditate to boost my already great attack. Family-specific slashes in the DQM games, like Undead Undoer, can't be replicated until Gen 6 where the move Freeze Dry was introduced. The extra damage to water types might even be a fixed effect, since there are no other moves like it, as far as I know. So, I just gave him Night Slash as a stand-in, which makes sense too, considering his default skill set is called Samurai in Japanese. The modern version of Feint is simply a 30 power quick attack that goes through Protect and other blocking moves. When it was first introduced in Gen 4, it was 50 power but would only work when the target uses Protect or Detect, so it was just a highly situational gimmick. Even Imprison with Protect might have been more useful, since Imprison is an aura effect, like Water Sport. I made the bulk up TM compatible, but I will save it for later, because TMs are not reusable in this generation. I replaced the Water starter this time, and it seems like I made the rival's team even worse. She now has a Slugma, which is undoubtedly one of the worst Pokémon ever made across all generations, and Magcargo is arguably even worse. And why Slugma over Torkoal or Camerupt anyway? It's not even a new Pokémon. While most gym leaders received a buff in Emerald, Watson has definitely received a slight nerf. His Magneton has been reduced by 2 levels, and its top spot was taken by a new Manectric, which is a fast glass cannon. A steel type that resists almost everything in the early game is clearly harder to deal with if you didn't start with Torchic. Like Undead Undoer, Demon Demeanor is another move that can't be ported over, so I gave him Jump Kick for stab. It doesn't have direct recoil damage, but it damages the user if it misses, and it's also boosted by Reckless. In this gen, the self-damage is equal to 1/8 of the damage it would have done, regardless of the target's HP. This means it could be massive if you miss something with poor defense and a double weakness to fighting. It was changed to a flat 50% of the user's max HP in the later gens. I forewent High Jump Kick because it's too needlessly overpowered with Reckless, and it has lower accuracy, so it's also too punishing if it misses. A boosted Jump Kick is basically a stock High Jump Kick anyway. Watson was easy with a Cherry Berry equipped. His Voltorb has soundproof, not static, and Feint doesn't make contact. I could afford to get paralyzed once anyway, as long as I didn't miss a Jump Kick, which would happen only 1 in 20 times. Emerald makes you fight both Team Aqua and Team Magma, but nothing has changed in the first Maxi battle on the volcano, and his team is still severely underleveled. He's actually more underleveled in Emerald, due to the increased number of unavoidable trainers on the way. Double Edge's base power gets boosted to 144 by Reckless, so it's essentially a Giga Impact without the recharging turn. Its recoil damage is 1/3 in this gen, instead of 1/4 like Takedown and Submission, but I have enough HP to absorb it a few times. Flannery received a huge buff in Emerald, as her second Slugma has been replaced by a Camerupt with Sunny Day, and her Torkoal now holds a White Herb. The White Herb resets the special attack drop from Overheat, making this battle horrible in a solo run if you can't one-shot her Torkoal. You can't even use Intimidate to pop it, because Torkoal has White Smoke to block stat debuffs from opponents, and Intimidate only works once on the first Pokemon anyway. Her Slugma always has Magma Armor, so I didn't have to worry about getting burned on contact. I should have been able to one-shot her Torkoal with Jump Kick, but I missed and got hit by a Tract and a critical Overheat. Fortunately, I had maxed EV in Special Defense, which allowed me to survive it. Norman's first Slacking has been replaced by Spinda and Linoon. It's not really a buff, since they are both terrible, but Slacking is a free KO for anything with Protect or a 2-turn move like Dig. Anyway, I'm a fighting type with boosted Jump Kick, so he should be a piece of cake, provided I wouldn't miss. I equipped a Chesto Berry just in case, since his Slacking knows Yawn, but Jump Kick should definitely one-shot it even if it has maxed HP and defense EVs. I am over 10 levels higher with a massive attack stat. Here I misclicked thinking I had Jump Kick in the first slot, but luckily, he didn't punish me with counter. Meditation in the DQM games is a self-healing skill that restores about 350 HP, but the only self-healing moves in this gen are Recover and its weather variants. There is a Heal Pulse in Gen 5, but I don't think you can target yourself with it. I don't know how exactly it works since I've never used it, but it seems to be only usable in double and triple battles. The rival battle here is a complete joke. She only has 3 awfully underleveled Pokemon, none of which have fully evolved. In fact, you can even find higher-leveled wild Pokemon in the water. And I still don't understand the Slugma. It must be a mistake since she had a Numel in Ruby and Sapphire. Winona's Flying Gym has received a roster change that could be dangerous for a solo run. She now has a Swablu that knows Perish Song, and she has 5 Pokemon in total, so it's instant GG if you can't one-shot it and don't have Taunt. But fortunately, it's very fragile and underleveled, and she leads with it instead of her Skarmory with Sand Attack, so it's very unlikely to be a problem. They could have made this gym a lot more challenging, or annoying rather, by having her lead with the Skarmory and programming it to always open with Sand Attack. The Swablu would be a lot more deadly if your accuracy was compromised, but they didn't design these games around solo runs, and you could just switch in a normal playthrough. The original name of Aerial Ace is Swallow Return, which is a sword technique in Japanese folklore, and that's why a lot of Pokemon with sharp claws or horns can also learn it. I made the TM compatible since the Wild Slime starts with the Samurai skill set, but it's just a bad move without Technician. It should be 80 power like Aura Sphere, but this is Gen 3, before the power creep started flying off the handle. By the way, the rival is definitely worse if you pick the water starter. She still has the awful Tropius and Pelipper, but instead of a fully evolved Ludicolo, she doesn't even get a Magcargo this time. I don't know if the male rival gets a different team, but I really doubt it since they intended for Wally to be your real rival in these games. You have to fight Maxi again inside the volcano in Emerald, and his team is the same as in Ruby, just at lower levels. I equipped a Persim Berry just to be safe, since 2 of his Pokémon have moves that can confuse, and his Crobat is faster than me due to my lack of speed EV. All bosses in Emerald have some amount of EVs on their Pokémon, but the ROM editor doesn't show how they are distributed. Maxie and Archie have the number 150 under their EVs, while other trainers like Steven can have up to 255. The Psychic Gym could be a pain for a fighting type with terrible special defense, and they added a Hatu and a Claydol in Emerald. This fight is basically 1v2, since my second Pokémon won't be able to do anything. The boss AI in this game heavily prioritizes KOs, as it's nowhere near advanced enough to identify and analyze threat levels, so it will just take out the team filler immediately. This is actually a plus, because it means the filler can always shield me from the first attack. The Claydol knows Earthquake, but luckily, the Hatu is faster. Unluckily, I got hit by a critical Earthquake, so I wasn't able to survive the next attack. I don't know how much a Psychic would do, but I think there's still a chance for me to win if Night/Slash one-shots the Claydol without Swords Dance, and I don't get critted. I re-attempted this fight without spending my first turn on Swords Dance, and it turned out to be an easy win. I had a huge level lead, and the Claydol probably didn't have maxed HP or defense EVs. It's not that bulky without defensive EVs since its base HP is only 60. Despite having 2 gym leaders, the Psychic Gym wasn't actually a multi-battle, only a standard double battle. However, it is followed by a compulsory multi-battle with Steven as your partner, and his team and AI are horrible. Most enemies in this fight can cause confusion, so a Persim Berry is forced. And here's the problem with Jump Kick, you take a lot of damage if it misses. Intimidate actually helped me there, as I would have taken a lot more crash damage if my attack stat was intact. My attack got lowered twice by Intimidate because they withdrew the Mightyena and sent it out again, but it was buffed back up by Swagger, which was kind of a weird decision by the AI. Anyway, this is usually a luck-based fight in a solo run, and it didn't go too badly this time, although Steven's Metang was pretty much useless. This is another battle that requires a Persim Berry, since all of Archie's Pokémon can cause confusion as well. His team is exactly the same as it was in Sapphire, although it did receive some EVs according to the ROM editor. He also has 150 under EVs, but again, I have no idea how they are distributed. I didn't expect his Crobat to survive a Night/Slash at +1 stage of attack, so I can only assume it has some HP or defense EVs. It wasn't a problem either way, as he just used a meaningless super potion instead of attacking or using Confuse Ray again. Yet another Persim Berry is needed for the one battle. All of his Pokémon know Water Pulse, which has a 20% chance of inflicting confusion, and his lead Love Disc has Sweet Kiss. It's just an awful Pokémon made for the sole purpose of farming heart scales, and it doesn't even evolve into that Sunfish in Gen 5. As the last gym leader, his team is pretty underleveled, and Jump Kick after Swords Dance one-shot everything. The Water Pulse TM he hands out is already obsolete by this point, since you need Surf to even reach him, and Confusion isn't a reliable ailment. Wally challenges you at the entrance of Victory Road in Emerald, instead of the exit, and this makes the fight somewhat easier because you won't be all scuffed up and out of PP. He is supposed to be your real rival in these games, but for some reason, his Pokémon are at even lower levels than Juan's. I think you can fight him again in the post-game, but I'm not sure. Here are my stats and moves going into the Pokémon League. Other than HP and attack, all my stats are pretty mediocre to bad, and not having speed EV might bite me. Giga Slash in DQM does physical bang damage that scales with your level, and the closest fit for bang is the Dragon type, so I just made it a 120 power physical dragon move based on Cross Chop. I replaced Swords Dance because I don't think I'd need it, and I still have the bulk up TM. I'm a fighting type with great attack, so my boosted Jump Kick should easily one-shot everything on Sydney's team even after Intimidate, as long as I don't miss. I doubt anything on his team could survive it even with maxed HP and defense EVs, because they all have low base HP and terrible defenses. Speaking of which, I don't know why they gave so many new Pokémon in this gen base 60 in both defenses. In fact, 3 of Sydney's Pokémon, Cacturne, Shiftry and Absol, all have 60 in both defenses, and then there are things like Hariyama, Manectric, Seviper and Zangoose, and probably more. While the overall power level isn't that high in this gen, base 60 defenses can hardly survive a neutral hit from anything relevant. Phoebe is a free win if Night/Slash can one-shot her first Dusclops which knows Curse. And it did. Glacia has the worst team in the league due to the shortage of new ice types, and 2 of her Pokémon haven't even fully evolved. Besides Regice, which is legendary, there are only 2 ice-type families in Gen 3. They could have brought back some previous ice types like Cloyster, Sneasel, and Piloswine, just for the sake of variety. Anyway, she was a free win as well, since I had Stab Jump Kick. Drake was a problem because I had nothing good against dragons, and Giga Slash, being based on Cross Chop and Stone Edge, has shaky accuracy. This was also the battle where my lack of speed EV might punish me, as I don't know exactly how much speed his Flygon and Salamence have. I didn't even get a chance to find out, since I missed his Kingdra and got paralyzed by its body slam, which I didn't know it could even learn. Fortunately, Emerald introduced the ability to respec EVs, so I could always shift some of my special defense EV into speed if this fight was unwinnable without going first. My second attempt started off poorly, as Giga Slash missed his Altaria and Kingdra, and I got hit by Smokescreen. I also turned out to be slower than both his Flygon and Salamence, but I had enough HP to survive a hit from each of them, and by some miracle, I didn't miss either. I don't think they have much or any attack EV, or their Stab Earthquake and Dragon Claw should have done a lot more. Their EVs might actually be in special attack, since Dragon was originally special in Gen 3. I used all the rare candies I found during the run to reach level 72. The level up rate of this EXP group really slows down after 55 or so. Volt Tackle is the electric version of Double Edge, so it gets boosted by Reckless too. It also has a 10% chance to paralyze, which isn't mentioned in the description due to limited character space. I didn't need Giga Slash anymore, so I replaced it with Bulk Up. It was probably unnecessary, but I didn't want to use Volt Tackle on Wallace's Wailord, and his Whiscash is immune to electric and might survive a jump kick. Wallace is arguably the worst champion across all generations. His entire team is water type, which isn't known for good coverage. The only potential threat is Ludicolo, if it knows Leech Seed, since he tends to send out his Gyarados so late that its Intimidate would hardly matter. Like always, this was just a long and boring fight. I even missed Jump Kick once on his Ludicolo, but all it decided to use was Double Team. You do get to fight the real champion, Steven, afterwards, who could actually be a real challenge in this run due to my very poor defenses and low level. Depending on the EV distribution on his Skarmory and Metagross, I might have to shift some of my special defense into speed. Or maybe all of it, because its Psychic will likely one-shot me regardless. I relearned Swords Dance, and Night Slash as well because of his Claydol. I also shifted about 100 special defense EV into speed, which was enough to outrun his Metagross. I tried without respecking, but I wasn't fast enough, and it just one-shot me with Psychic like I expected. A Pecha Berry was forced, as I had to eat a Toxic to use Swords Dance against his lead Skarmory. He usually opens with Spikes, giving me time to boost twice, which is probably necessary to one-shot his Claydol with Night Slash. Anyway, all I needed to beat him was getting lucky on the first turn and not missing Jump Kick against his Metagross. So, in conclusion, some of the simpler abilities, like Reckless and Technician, can be easily recreated here using custom moves, since all you have to do is change the boosted move's power. However, the more complicated abilities, as well as all the defensive ones like Solid Rock and Multiscale, can't be done without editing the game engine. For this reason, I will just keep things simple from now on. That's it for this run. Thanks for watching.